Hey guys, it's Nikes, and the most surprising announcement in the Avengers Doomsday cast reveal was the return of numerous actors from Fox's X-Men films. This includes Sir Patrick Stewart as Professor X, Ian McKellen as Magneto, Alan Cumming as Nightcrawler, Rebecca Romijn as Mystique, James Marsden as Cyclops, Channing Tatum as Gambit, and Kelsey Grammer as Beast. This was news that really excited me because I grew up on Fox's X-Men films and their other Marvel films in general. I teared up during the tribute to Fox's Marvel films in Deadpool and Wolverine because these films are all a part of my childhood, and so it's really special to me that we get to see many of these characters appear in an Avengers film and potentially fight along other MCU heroes. However, there's been one question floating around in my mind since the cast reveal. Are these the exact same characters from the X-Men films, or are these variants played by the same actors? Well, let's discuss. But before I do, I want to preface this by saying I have no spoilers per se, but I will be including some leaked images which could be considered spoilery-esque, so watch at your own risk. Anyways, in simplest terms, yes, I believe that the X-Men who will appear in Avengers Doomsday are the same X-Men from the original films, but from a very specific point in time. At first I thought they weren't, because as I thought of all the times this team could possibly be together, none really made sense to me. Cyclops and Xavier die in The Last Stand, so it couldn't be after, but in the original trilogy, Beast doesn't join up with the X-Men until The Last Stand, so it couldn't be before The Last Stand either. But there is a very specific point where Cyclops and Charles are alive and Beast is also presumably a part of the team, and that is during the epilogue of Days of Future Past when Wolverine wakes up in the healed future. In this future, the events of the original trilogy, or at least The Last Stand, didn't take place as Cyclops and Jean are both alive. And we also see Beast as a professor at the school, so it's safe to assume he's a part of the team at this point in time too. However, that still leaves a few characters that we haven't seen yet, but their fate is easy to predict. Alan Cumming's Nightcrawler didn't appear in The Last Stand or Days of Future Past, simply because Cumming didn't want to return after his rough experience in X2. Bryan Singer will do that to you. But this can easily be explained as he took some time away from the team, but will return to help the X-Men with the multiversal threat. Nothing ever stated that he died or anything, and he had no reason to turn evil, so this can easily just be explained away as he took some time away from the team to explore his past or something. Except then I realized, in this timeline, these films didn't actually take place, and it's instead implied that the events of Apocalypse and Dark Phoenix, led to this future. But Nightcrawler was a part of the team in this timeline, so it would make natural sense for him to be a part of the team in this future as well. And the same goes for Mystique, except there is one issue. She, dies in Dark Phoenix. Oops. But this timeline also implies that Jean somehow comes back to life too, so we can assume she somehow comes back. Somehow Mystique returned. But in this trilogy, we see Mystique become a good guy and join the X-Men, so if she survived, we know she'd still be with the X-Men, which lines up with this leaked image of her costume, showing that she is a part of the X-Men. Wow, that's a lot of saying X-Men. And Magneto, we can also assume that either he's a good guy in this timeline, or he'll at least join up with the X-Men to help deal with a multiversal threat, which, while it's not canon to this timeline, we have seen Magneto work with the X-Men with much lower stakes, so even if he's still against them in this timeline, it's still believable that he'd team up with them considering the circumstances. But who knows, maybe he'll just be in the corner having another breakdown because of all the green screen. I get him, man, shooting green screen can be depressing.
Oh, come on.
That leaves one character unaccounted for though, Channing Tatum's Gambit. This is a weird case since he never appeared in an actual X-Men film, but keep in mind there's a 30-year gap between Dark Phoenix and Days of Future Past, so we can assume he just showed up at some point in this time and just was somewhere else in this epilogue scene. So we've placed all the characters in this setting, but there's one more thing. Based on a few leaks, we can see that all of these characters will be wearing outfits more in line with their comic outfits than the outfits seen in Bryan Singer's films. That's a lot of saying outfits. However, this would still work with this point in time too. As I mentioned, this scene takes place in the same continuity as Apocalypse and Dark Phoenix, and at the end of Apocalypse, the characters wear more comic accurate suits, and in Dark Phoenix, they wear more colorful suits based on the new X-Men. So if this is the future of the timeline, I find it believable that over the next 30 years, as their suits evolved, they became more colorful, unique from one another, and closer to their comic counterparts. The last supporting piece of evidence is the actual time this takes place in. Doomsday most likely takes place in the late 2020s, and Deadpool and Wolverine seems to imply that years are all roughly the same across the multiverse. The future scene in Days of Future Past is set in 2023, which means the events of Doomsday would take place around 5 or so years after after this future. Now this does seemingly intersect with the Logan timeline,
The new Quesalupa from Taco Bell.
but the ending of Days of Future Past intersects with the Logan timeline as well, as it's implied they stopped mutant births by 2004, yet we see Teenage Mutants at the school in 2023, 19 years after mutant births ended, and I don't think this kid is 19, so we can presumably move Logan to an alternate timeline
It's the next big thing. Go now while supplies last.
and have Doomsday set in 2028 in this universe. This is definitely some shaky evidence, but the timeline here with Logan was already unstable, so it's really not too far of a leap for this to be the case. And considering it's been 11 years since the ending, it'll feel natural to have Doomsday set 5 years after this ending, since all the actors have of course aged since 2014. Except for James Marsden, I swear to God he has not aged in 25 years. I didn't even realize this was him in the Sonic movie because I thought he had to have aged in 20 years, but no, this man literally still looks the same to this day. Of course, there are still plenty of things that make it plausible that the X-Men and Doomsday aren't the same ones from this alternate timeline, or from any of the timelines we've seen in Fox's X-Men films. But this is the most believable point in time the X-Men and Doomsday could be from, and I think it'd be a great way to continue these characters' story and give them more proper closure. Not to say some of them didn't have decent closures here, but some other characters could use better ones. Regardless of if they are from this point in time, another, or are different characters entirely, I am very excited to see these actors back in action as the X-Men from my childhood, and I hope the Russo brothers treat these characters with the care and elegance they deserve. Thanks for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed this discussion, speculation, whatever you want to call this. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Next video will be up in 2 weeks. It'll also be another X-Men video, although I promise that won't be the only thing I talk about. But from there, I'll be releasing videos weekly for about a month, so look for a big influx in content over the next 2 months. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.